Well, boys, it's come to my attention. Some people in the league would really like week two projections, matchup projections, what's going to happen. Uh, they want some feedback on it. They like to know what people think. Here's the thing. Everyone cares what Bonzo thinks. They don't care what these rookie owners think. Kuba Smooth coming in, getting his casual opinion, right? 0-1. No one, he's right. In his video, he said, no one's going to listen to this because no one cares. He's right, all right? So leave it to Bonzo. Bonzo will give you what you want. Maybe you make the playoffs. You make the playoffs, you'll get a featured spot on the channel, right? You'll get to talk about what you think about some of the matchups, project your own matchup, talk a little bit of trash. Until you make the playoffs, heck, until you win a couple games, just stay out of it. That would be my recommendation. Because Bonds is going to come in. I'm not just going to give you projections. I'm going to talk through some of the nuances of the matchups, what's going on with each team this week, what's changed, what's a little bit different, and what to look out for. So jumping right in here, Molly's Muffins Draft Night Ghost. Pretty close projection here, right? And I will reference the projections. Now, preseason, I don't like to talk about projections because ESPN, they don't really know what they're talking about. But once they, have a few weeks to work off of, their projections get better. They can reasonably assume where players are going to be, where teams are going to land. So we start to get into these weeks, we can see, hey, this matchup's probably going to project to be pretty close, right? Tie maybe projected to edge out the victory by a little, but a few points really means nothing. So basically, this is a coin flip. Now, the way I see it, I look at this matchup and I notice, hey, we got a lot of players playing Thursday night. Justin Herbert, Gerald Everett for Sam. We got Eckler, we got Mike Williams for Ty. Sam with the bold play. He's starting Everett over Goddard. Starting Everett over Goddard. Even though Goddard came through last week, Everett came through a little bigger, and he wants that stack with his quarterback. He wants the potential of that Herbert to Gerald Everett touchdown for 13 points. So that's what he's going with. And something to keep in mind for Ty here is in what world does Mike Williams have a good game that Justin Herbert doesn't have a good game? And he throws a lot of passing touchdowns to Eckler, too. So in what world does Eckler have a good game and Justin Herbert doesn't put up a lot of points as well? Maybe if he runs in a score or two, right? That's the only scenario. That's kind of what Ty is rooting for tonight. What would screw Tyler is if Herbert winds up throwing passing touchdowns to Everett or even to Mike and Eckler and Josh Palmer, right? He just slings it around, has a good game. Because that's going to kind of negate what his main two players' success are. And Sam's team is still going to be propped up by that. So we're going to know a lot about this matchup after tonight. You also can probably project a mismatch down there at the flex. Nick Chubb versus Amari Cooper and Rashad Penny. I mean, it's a little bit of a mismatch. That's where I see a mismatch in this matchup. So it'll be an interesting game. Lots of points to be scored in this one tonight. Let's go to the next one. Deshaun is innocent, detrimentally horny. Pretty wide projection here, pretty much favoring Mark's team. And why is that? You just look at the rosters and you can see why. Brett's got George Kittle in there. Is he even going to play? Dameon Pierce didn't show us anything last week. Doesn't look like he's going to return his draft price. Logan Thomas at the flex. You got to think there's someone out there on the waiver wire better than Logan Thomas at flex. He can't be serious about starting this man, can he? I don't know. That's pretty sketch. Obviously, he's dealing with the Akers, the Keenan Allen. It's tough. It's just a tough, tough stretch for Brett's team here. Even though Mark has Zeke, who is probably projecting to be worse with Dak out, right? Offense is probably going to get worse. I mean, he's still going to be carried by Josh Allen, DeAndre Swift, Devontae Adams. He's got a couple studs. He's obviously got a few studs on this team, whereas Zach has one. So it's probably pretty easy to just see where this matchup goes and why it favors Mark so heavily. This matchup here, CD boys, that's tough. Again, we're going to talk about Dak again. You got to downgrade. Right here, ESPN says, why Dak's injury will impact CD Lamb the most. It's not in a good way. It's not impacting him in a good way. Not to mention you got Kamara dealing with the rib injury, so injuries kind of hitting this team hard as well. The tough thing about it is, where's the bench depth there? You're starting Renfro, Henry, Robbie Anderson, all guys I'd be concerned about. And then he doesn't have a very flashy quarterback either. Doesn't have very flashy wide receivers. None of it. Nothing about CD Boy's team is looking encouraging, whereas Kuba Smooth took the L last week, but he ran into a tough matchup. And if anything, you're going to have a bounce back from Russell Wilson this week, right? And Sutton. Dalvin Cook due for a bounce back. And then the rest of his team will probably just coast him. So I like Kuba Smooth in this matchup, sort of taking advantage of the weaker squad and the injured squad in order to get back into form. Now, in these Cheeks Broncos country, now this is projected to be another tight one. Looking at the theme of this matchup, I would say it's, going into Monday night, what's going to be happening? Broncos country needs to get a lead by Monday night because Hurts is very, very likely going to outscore A.J. Brown. Because if he throws a couple touchdowns to him, he's getting those 6 points for those touchdowns as well. And we know Jalen runs a lot. Last week was a great week for A.J. Brown. Will he do it again? It'll be interesting to see. Charlie's also got Juju going tonight. He's got a couple of the Broncos, so a lot will be determined by how those Broncos can do. If they can bounce back as an offense, maybe one of these guys gets in the end zone once or twice. He wants to build up a cushion going into Monday night because I think Monday night, if this matchup is even, you're definitely favoring John's team. It'll be interesting to see how he gets there. He's dealing with the Najee injury, but he might have a bounce back here with the double tight end, Mark Andrews and T.J. Hawkinson. I mean, I guess I'd do it just because who's he going to start from on this bench over Hawkinson? He's dealing with the Mitchell injury too. John's team a little bit more plagued by injuries, so it'll be interesting to see where this matchup lands end of the week. Simp for Sarah, C- draft grade. Jake's team just looks like a wagon, doesn't it? I mean, he's getting hit by the injury bug with T. Higgins, but he's going to have Tyler Boyd to fill in for him if he can't go. He's got a couple good pieces on the bench ready to fill in. And then C- draft grade on the other side. The story in this one, I think, is sitting Clyde. I think that's bold. I'm not sure how you sit Clyde after last week and up against the Chargers when he's playing Josh Jacobs instead. But more power to him. More power to him. Both these teams have crappy tight ends. Both these teams have really good wide receivers. But then, Jake's team obviously favored at running back there. You'd rather start Saquon than Josh Jacobs and Cordero. So, and you'd rather start the quarterback as well. You'd rather start Kyler over Wentz. Outlier week for Wentz last week. Kind of funny. Wentz went crazy, and then Kyler had like a bad day. The Cardinals were bad, and Kyler was still QB8, and Wentz's ceiling was like QB3. So most weeks, Kyler's going to outscore Wentz. Interesting little matchup here. Jake probably takes that one home. And then you got the Implication versus Ravens Flock. Let's fly. This is another pretty lopsided projection, right? 12 points is significant, given the nod to the Implication on the projections. But is Ravens Flock Let's Fly due for a bounce back? You look at those top 6 players there. Sorry, top 5 players. Gabe Davis on up. Those guys all combined for 110 points last week. Because those bottom 3, Pitts, Allen Robinson, Devontae Smith, they combined for 5 points. They're all pulling their weight, doing their job. Average of over 20 between them, right? Can these bottom guys pull their weight? I guess we're going to find out. That's going to be a theme for this team and how this team takes the next step from middle of the league score to higher score. Then you look over to the Implication. Is he due for regression in the other direction? Because Kareem Hunt, 2 touchdowns. Michael Thomas, 2 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, 2 touchdowns last week. Mahomes went crazy. Interesting to see if he's able to put together another super hot week like that. Obviously, his team is coming out and producing right off the bat, but we'll know a lot about this matchup after tonight, after this Thursday night game, Mahomes and Kelsey. I would say, if Mahomes doesn't throw a touchdown to Kelsey, Kelsey goes, just 7 catches, 100 yards, and, Mahomes, maybe he throws 2 or 3 touchdowns instead of 4 or 5, and he throws for 300 yards instead of 375, 400. That'll bode well for Ravens Flock. He'll be going in. He'll have that biggest potential swing out of the way, and his players will be able to just focus and play their game. Mahomes throws a bunch to Kelsey tonight. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tougher hole for Ravens Flock to climb out of. That's the theme of this matchup. Good luck to everyone in week 2. Good luck to everyone except for Deshaun is innocent. When you have a disgusting name like that, I cannot root for your team to go 2-0. He was the lowest scoring team to get a dub last week, as you can see there. Only the 3rd highest scoring team in the league, but he got a win. Some would say that's undeserved, but I'm not going to be the one to come out and say that. Other people would say that, right? Had a pretty competitive race there with a lot of teams scoring between this 122 and 105 range. So it'll be interesting to see who separates himself week 2 and comes out and puts their stamp on on this week, and who can get to 2-0. We got 6 teams with potential to go 2-0. Only so many can do it because a couple of them play each other. It'll be interesting to see who's sitting at the top of standings and also who's sitting at the bottom, because one of these teams is going to be owned too. That's for sure. Probably a few of them, especially if they keep putting up those point totals there. So Sacco Rice might get real tight real early.